Hi, welcome to PDQ Live. Today's a little bit of a special edition of PDQ Live in that we pivoted a little bit because of the CrowdStrike fiasco. They're saying it is the largest global IT outage.
Crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say, though. Tell me if you agree or disagree. It's going to happen again.
Yes.
It's not if, it's when.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
It's a win.
So when this first happened, I, of course, did my normal. I panicked and thought, oh my gosh, what can we do? Let's do it right now. What can we do to prevent this? And then you immediately said, you can't.
Yeah, this one you can't as a consumer of the CrowdStrike product.
Well, and I remember I said this to you, and I want you to go over this briefly with us because maybe other people have this false assumption like I did. Because I said to you, why wasn't there a delay on receiving this update from this EDR?
Or why couldn't you control it?
Yeah, why couldn't you control the update? So can we talk about that just for a minute, how EDRs do this?
Yeah.
This is what I like to call Josh school, you guys.
Are we going to draw?
Yes, you're going to draw.
Should we draw?
Let's draw.
All right, let's try and switch this thing up, right? I think it was this button.
I like to ask Josh ridiculously complex questions, and then he draws it out for me. It's the best.
We're going to try and take 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Quick.
2 minutes. Right, and we're going to try and draw this in super simplified. And I think we linked a video that someone explains this a whole lot better than I will.
No, you're the best.
But like, let's imagine here, like this is a CPU, right? Over here, we have kernel mode. And for simplicity's sake, we have app mode or user land space, right? So like an app is like Word, things like that. In this kernel land, we're going to have, the PCIe bus, storage, stuff like that. So kernel is going to talk to this stuff. And then we're also going to have drivers. Drivers exist here, okay? So to get a driver, that's what's going to, translate the stuff from user land to kernel land. There's thread weight. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens here. Really complicated. We're going to keep it very simple.
Okay.
So CrowdStrike writes a driver, right? They write this driver because at kernel land, you can see access to everything.
Okay.
And if my value prop is like, hey, I'm going to prevent 0 days, I'm going to see everything that's going on, this is a really good vantage point for a product like CrowdStrike, like Falcon. Okay. So CrowdStrike goes out, they get this driver validated from Windows, right? It's WHQL. They get it validated. They know it's going to run. It's likely not going to blue screen, but
likely,
right? But just like anything else, it's likely not to. Everybody's had like a driver blue screen for the GPU, something like that. Here's where the problem starts to come in, right? Is they put out updates over here, right? Little update file, right? Here's this update file. To get those drivers validated, that's a turnaround of like days at best. So if I'm an EDR provider,
that's way too slow.
Days is too slow.
Yeah.
So I get my driver validated, but then what I'm doing is I'm taking these updates and I'm feeding it as little micro programs to the driver. And now that this is executing in kernel mode, in kernel land, and when you have an error in kernel land, that's a system halt, right? And we do a system halt so that we don't end up with like corrupting everything else. So like this isn't a Windows problem. Like all modern operating systems do this. In Linux, you get the black screen with sad tux. In Mac, I'm pretty sure it's pink. But there's a bunch of others. And so what's happening is they've got this unvalidated code coming in here. And it's only unvalidated in the way that it's not signed by Windows as a valid driver. So this could have happened on any OS. And really, this could happen to any EDR provider that's doing the same type of architecture.
But you're saying you can't control how quick it happens because it has to be quick because of the nature of how EDRs function.
These micro updates are coming real time, essentially, right? As soon as this EDR is marking them as live and available, they're getting distributed. So you can have a single oops in assembly, right? As I go move from memory register 8 to 9, and it causes a fault, and that's a system panic. It gets compounded in the CrowdStrike issue because that driver that's causing the fault was marked as a boot driver, right? So even every time on boot, it would hit that same kind of memory error and cause the system to halt and fail.
So the CEO, I think we have a picture of this. So he was at McAfee in 2010. Same thing happened.
Yeah. Yeah, in XP days.
In the next few days. So
Yeah.
how long until this guy gets fired? Is what
Well,
I'm wondering.
I think it was like, what, 2009, right? I think it's 2009 when that happened. And really, you have to do this, right? Like, if you want that vantage point, you are going to have to be at that elevated, almost I can see everything mode.
Yeah, for it to be effective. But that's scary, though, isn't it?
Well, which is worse, right? Having a product that's supposed to be watching your back once every maybe 10 years causes system failure.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Like, I doubt this ever happens to CrowdStrike again. It's unfortunate it happened in the first place. Or is it worth, I have to manually go and approve or manually schedule driver updates? Because that's essentially what these are. Like, they're updating that driver with definition files.
Yeah.
Which is worse.
Yeah.
Pick your poison.
So I thought about it a lot, and I tend to make knee-jerk reactions and completely go over, but I know that's shocking to everybody, right?
Yeah.
And you and I talked about this, and this is terrifying to me, and then we'll actually get into what we prepared for you, which is, okay, it's going to happen again. We know it's going to happen again, so what do you do about it? But a couple things. Southwest was one airline that wasn't affected because they're on XP.
Oh, whatever. Are they actually on XP?
I don't know.
But they didn't use CrowdStrike. Everyone likes to poke fun at Southwest.
Yeah. Also, Hanks told me in the hall that NASA still uses XP. So
I'm sure I bet there's like NT4 boxes in the
probably,
wild.
yeah.
Right? Like, you've got this system that runs a CNC machine somewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be vulnerabilities.
No.
It can keep you up at night, or you can just have kind of what I think is more your attitude, which is there's always going to be something.
So this CrowdStrike thing, it sucked. It was bad, right? But it's not going to be the last time this happens.
No.
Will it be CrowdStrike again? Probably not, but maybe. So what I started thinking about, and the discussion that you and I started to have, is like, what was missed, right? And I don't want to talk about it from the CrowdStrike perspective. I want to talk about it from the customer perspective.
Yeah.
What did we as a technology community miss in our incident response plans that allowed this to be such a giant widespread outage?
Yeah, and I think what we started to talk about is my initial reaction was everyone is too reliant on technology. And I think you were like patting me on the head like, oh, you're so cute. But not necessarily technology, but a one-stop approach. So that's what we're going to talk about. That's how we're going to approach today's webcast is coming up with an incident response and a BIA approach to your organization.
Yes.
Don't be caught unaware should this happen to you, is essentially the gist of it, right?
Because it's not a matter of if something is going to happen, it's when, right? Like, in this exact scenario, you can control everything in your environment. You can think you're doing the right thing, and it takes a vendor, with a bad update to cause your incident response plan to go into place. Yeah.
So Andrew actually posted this in GitHub, and Drew has put this in the description. So you guys can follow along and you can use this later, but we put this together mostly to help anyone that doesn't have this in their environment start to have a framework to just kind of be thinking about it, right? And it takes a while. It's not something that's really simple, but we put together the resources to do it. So we're just going to gently go through it and just kind of talk about what it takes and how we did it as PDQ.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So the dependence on cloud vendors. This is a great example of what can happen. So you're heavily reliant on cloud services, of course, and vendors just like this. So that's the first section. And again, this is, we gave it to you so you can look at it. The threat landscapes. But we're going to really mostly talk on business continuity and setting up your own BIA plan, right? Because that's really where it's at.
Yeah, I think this is most IT practitioners, at least the ones that I know, like to start talking about business continuity, incident response, disaster recovery. They want to start in the middle. Yeah. Right? Most everyone wants to start with, all right, I have multiple backups. I do this with my configs. I do all of these technical things, and I think that's great. Yeah. You have to figure that out, but I think you need to figure that out later, right? You need to back up a few steps, come up a few levels. Yes. And you and I started talking about this, right? Yeah. So I think what's most important is to think about what it is from a business perspective. Yeah. Why do we exist as IT professionals, and what services do we provide, and what are acceptable downtimes? I think we disagreed on this because I said
my initial reaction was it's all about the money. But I think you need to sit down and have those tabletop exercises with the stakeholders. And that's not always IT professionals. It's not.
It's almost always not
So
an IT conversation. This is almost always not a technical conversation. It's our job as IT to translate the business processes, the business needs to technology.
So, Steve, I think, Drew, are these in the description? Is this document in the description for GitHub? Okay,
Yes,
so
it is.
if you look in the description of the YouTube video, you'll see it's linked there. So maybe let's just start there. Drew, can we just take a look at that table of the business plan? Because let's just walk through that quickly so we can just see. So this is just a really rudimentary one. So what we're going to do here is you're just going to identify... I'm so blind, I can't even see that, but let's pretend I can see it. So we're going to start by, do we want to start by area?
High level, like the worksheet's great because it gives you a place to start.
Yeah.
Here's what I would suggest you do.
Okay.
Go to the functional leaders in your organization.
Okay.
Right? Go to each different group. Go to HR, go to finance, go to accounting.
Yeah.
Say, all right, what happens? What are your tasks that you have to do every day?
Yeah.
Don't talk to them about technology.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's our job to get there in the middle. What do you do every day? And then ask them, what happens if that goes away?
Yeah.
That's the next question. Okay, what happens if it goes away? And not just generally, what if it happens if it goes away for 2 hours?
Yeah.
What about 12?
Yeah.
What about 24? Right? And you start to figure out the impact of these critical business processes. And let's say it's something like, well, if we were down for 48 hours, 2 weeks, right? Then we'd have an impact.
Now, are we talking monetarily or now are we talking contingency or both?
Both.
Okay.
You're asking these questions both. You're saying, all right, how much money is it going to cost us if we don't do this?
Yeah.
How much time, how much effort is it going to cost us? And then also, what is the risk to the organization?
Okay.
Is it a risk to customers? It is a risk to brand. Is it a risk to insert something else here?
Okay.
So you're figuring out what these individual processes are, and then that's what you're going to build your contingencies off of.
Okay, now, dumb question. Can my contingency be just as easy as go home?
Yes.
Okay, but I have it written down and
Yes.
everybody knows the plan.
But that's the biggest thing is everybody knows the plan. It doesn't have to be this wonderfully complex technical thing. In fact, it shouldn't be.
Okay.
Because in the case of an incident, everyone's going to be in panic mode anyway.
Right.
Right? So maybe it is just go home. Or maybe it is go grab the legal pad, the yellow legal pad and a pen and write it down.
Sure.
Because it'll take IT, 7 days to get it up. But if I only do this process once a day, I can just write it down.
Yeah.
And then I can input it in the system later.
But if I'm hearing right from you, I need to hear from each departmental leader what's crucial for your department, and then I will help you determine technologically speaking.
100%.
Okay, so that's the important part of this
100%.
exercise. Okay.
Yes.
And then monetarily speaking, that's when I'm really deciding from a technological standpoint, what do I need to do to get this back up and put a time limit on it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So let's take for an example, like an extreme case, right? We're talking about CrowdStrike anyway, so let's talk about it.
Yeah.
This is hit endpoints, right? And let's talk about an airline. Because
Yes.
it seems like that's the one that was just like blew up for everybody.
Yes.
Easily to point out.
Yes.
We started talking about this. We're like, well, what if we just did a hot spare?
Yes, we both said that. Yeah, you said it, and I'm like, yeah, we do it immediately.
What if we just do a hot spare? Okay, so I'm an airline and I say I have a computer that is online that is doing some business function. It's issuing tickets, right? And it's for a gate agent. A gate agent can't do that in this case.
Right.
But if I had a hot spare right there that they could move the cables to,
That I have unplugged, that didn't receive that update, and all I have to do
then it
is
would work.
immediately.
And then I think the conversation went something along the lines of, but holy cow, how expensive is that?
A lot less expensive than the $1 billion I
Is
just
it?
lost.
Is it?
Well, I mean, I'm imagining, but
Is it? Right? Because it's not only the cost of the hardware, right? That's the first cost. And that's probably the easiest reconcilable cost is the hardware.
Yeah.
That second cost that no one's thinking about is you now have to train all of your users to be able to swap it, right? Yeah, I got to switch to a secondary machine. And I have to be able to keep that machine online, and I have to do it on a regular cadence because I do need to keep it generally up to date, right? Maybe it was 3, 4, 5 days behind.
Sure.
Right? And exactly like Alex said, how do you prevent it, right? So maybe it's a double.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an entirely different software stack. So it's not only just hardware that's redundant, but now a software stack redundant too. So is it worth me losing $1 billion on an incident? I would argue yes. That it was worth it because it would have cost more to go do all of this other stuff.
Okay, well, you know what I'm going to ask you now. And I would put this right in my plan because I'm me. You know where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
You can't start here. You can't start at the hardware level. I feel like you need to start right at the top. I'm old, so bear with me. Okay, ready? Do you know where I'm going to ask you? I'm used to having a primary and secondary firewall. And I know it's not germane to this conversation, but let's just pretend. If we're doing a disaster incident recovery plan, I'm going to do that. Don't we need to start at the top?
Well, what is the top?
Well, for me, it's firewall.
Why is that the top?
Well, I don't know, because I'm old. Pretend I'm old. Okay, I know you're probably going to be in the cloud and you're going to do it differently, but don't I need to start firewall and then I'm going to go to network, then I'm going to switches, and I'm going to save all my configs, and shouldn't I have all that redundancy built in?
No, I think you're starting in the middle.
Okay.
You think you're at the top, but I think you're in the middle.
What's the top?
I think the top of this is, why do you have a firewall?
Because I'm old.
What is the process that it does? Like, everyone has one. Everyone has an edge device. Why do you have it? What is it doing?
It's protecting me, Josh. It's my security blanket. What do you mean? What's it doing?
It's facilitating secure access to the internet,
yes.
Right? So that's the next level up. I have a firewall, facilitate secure access to open internet. Okay. Why do I facilitate secure access to the internet?
I don't want to get what?
Why do you do it?
To be safe, to not get attacked, to
because
stop
your
attackers,
users need internet to do what?
To work. Oh, but I can send them home. Oh, that's what you're going to say.
No, that's what I'm saying. As I'm saying, like, we're starting in the middle at that firewall. Go those other couple questions first, and then solve at a higher level. Don't solve at the very nitty gritty technical layer. Solve at the highest level you possibly can, because it's likely the most cost effective, most broad sweeping, and fastest to implement.
Okay.
Right? That lower stuff takes more on you, takes more money, takes more time, and it's harder to technically execute.
So are you starting from just saying, I'm going to send my users all home, I'm going to enable a remote workforce? Is that where your high-level thinking?
Maybe the users don't actually need the internet for some business processes. Maybe they don't. And so maybe I'm manufacturing, right? I make widgets on a factory floor.
Okay.
Right? And I have internet primarily to get email, Slack, corporate orders, stuff like that. But maybe I only reconcile orders in my factory floor once a week.
Okay.
I think that my internet could be down for 3 days then. In that situation. But
you just broke my brain.
Because I don't need it that often. Right? I can send a user home. I can send a user home, say, hey, go work on your hotspot, get all the orders and bring them into the factory.
Okay.
Right? But what I cannot tolerate is the computer that's running the CNC machine being down for more than 5 minutes.
Okay, and that's what you're going to figure out when you're doing this exercise, is you're going to go line by line and you're going to make it out. I'm going to read these comments really quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I see what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying is talk at a higher level as you get down and you work through this business impact assessment. Everyone will always want to get into the technical weeds. We're more comfortable there as IT people.
For sure.
We're more comfortable to try and solve a problem with technology than solving a process or a people problem.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would just encourage everyone, as you go through this exercise, as you think about your unique business, I don't think you can do your job as an IT person without understanding the business and the business processes.
Oh, I totally agree.
I just don't think you can do it.
Well, do you remember, I'm just going to point this out, because you remember the last big hack, it was an actual hack, that big hotel in Vegas that got hacked, and they couldn't even make keys to the rooms.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
That's craziness.
That is craziness, right?
Yeah, that's insane.
That's because
there's no other way to make a key.
In my opinion, they did not go through and do an accurate BCP.
Yeah, I agree.
I bet their BCP looks something that was highly technical.
What's a BCP?
A business continuity plan.
Okay, thank you.
That's what this business impact assessment is getting into, right?
Yeah.
You're figuring out what those processes are so that you can then go make a plan.
Yeah. So identify your business critical machines.
Yeah.
The BCP.
Nope, not machines.
Oh, systems.
Nope,
systems.
not even systems.
What?
Business processes.
Oh, business.
What is the
You got to stop it. You know I hate acronyms. Okay,
Yeah.
business critical.
Business continuity plan.
Business continuity plan.
Yeah.
You and your acronyms.
And we're talking about business processes, not systems. What are the things that your business needs to do to operate?
Okay. And then how do they do it normally? And then what's your backup plan?
Yeah. What do you do if you can't do that?
Yeah.
Right? And maybe it is, okay, well, I can't issue a magnetic key, or maybe I have a magnetic key on file. right? Maybe I have one on file that's just on for every room in an envelope.
Or, okay, don't freak out.
Yeah.
What's my analog version to that?
That is your analog version.
What
of
would
that.
Mark say to do?
I don't know. That is your analog version, right? So, okay, your example is I'm a hotel. The system that I use to make key cards doesn't work because it's insert bad thing happening here. I say, okay, all right, well, if I have 100 rooms, I can make a key. I can pre-stage a key for all 100 rooms, right? That works.
Master key.
No, just for that one room.
Oh,
right?
just for that one room.
Just for that one room. So room 1 goes in an envelope that says room 1. And I put those in a safe behind the desk.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Good idea.
There's your offline analog, and it's not super technical.
Think outside the box.
I didn't say go make 3 copies at the server that issues the keys. I didn't say, get 14 different other things. Just put a copy of them in a safe.
Be creative. Well, everyone's saying doing hot swappables is a big undertaking, and I don't disagree, but I think depends on how many we're talking about, right? We have hot swappables in the studio, and I actually firmly agree with it, but I also agree with isolating your business critical machines. I firmly believe in that. I do.
It comes down to impact. I think Dude Sweet says, hey, like some of these things, for it to justify that, it has to be the organization will cease to exist.
Yes.
Right? There are a handful of the if you want to talk about it in like a red team, blue team, like offensive security type thing, they're the crown jewels. There are a few of those that exist in an organization that you go to that level for. But there's also a lot that can just be a death by 1,000 cuts that you also need to identify and have continuity for.
So, I've said this before, I was sad, horrible, the CryptoLocker experience in my past. The only thing that saved us is we had a mirrored server set up of our financial system at an outside location.
Yep.
The only thing that saved us from paying.
Yep.
So I think you do need to identify those systems. And we had our automation system completely isolated. It wasn't affected. Those two things.
Someone some point along the line thought about, hey, what is the business impact if I lose financials? And how do I best protect that?
Yeah. So
and they did that.
Right? Yeah, but I think that's part of this exercise, right?
It is.
Yeah, it is a pain. Everyone's saying that it's a pain. Yeah, we're not saying it isn't a pain, but it's worth it in these things. So
I think the other thing here is it's great to have a plan. It's great to have this thought exercise, but every plan goes to crap.
When you're stressed out, when you're tired.
The second that you're tired and stressed and have to put it into action, right? So if you're not testing this, if you're not at the bare minimum having a table talk exercise with the leaders in the organization that would have to enact this, that plan's not worth the ink that it took to print it.
When your whole organization is gone and you're having to rebuild everything and you have nothing written down, I'm here to tell you it's hard and you're tired and you've been up for 20 hours and you can't
you don't
think
even
straight.
know what the processes are that you're trying to restore.
Yeah.
You're trying to restore things as they were, and chances are things aren't coming back the way they were.
No, and you have to start from scratch. It's tough.
Yeah, and so now you need to understand the processes so you can maybe put them back in a new way.
Right? Have it written down.
Yeah.
I had a binder in the safe where I had all this written down, and it saved me for sure. But I think once you have the plan, to your point that you just made, practice it.
Yes.
Have a cadence where you practice the plan with not only your tech team, like you just said, your thought leaders.
Yep. Yeah, that's
important.
These are the functional leaders, right? That's who I would suggest going to in your organization, right? You could go to the director of finance. You could go to the director of HR. Those people are going to have an idea of what needs to happen. I'm saying go lower level. Go to like the manager. Go to the team lead. Those are the people that know those processes and exactly how to get them done. Those are the people you want to talk to in the organization.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Like, do you have their phone numbers written down in an easy place, in one place?
That's part of it, right? Have an incident response like list, who you call, who's the person for what thing. But as you're building your business impact assessment, the functional leaders are the ones to talk to, not the high level, organization leaders.
Yeah. The ones that are actually going to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we included because all this is part of getting SOC 2 compliant. And so we did include the SOC 2 compliance guide at the end here. And then we included, just for fun, some third-party auditing tools that you might find helpful. You might not. I've used the Manage Engine one before. I like that one, but I did include some other ones just for fun, just so you can see, and then some incident response ones. Take or leave them. It's just for you. So try them out. See. I do see some questions, so we should maybe ask Drew if we want to take some questions. Do we have some official questions, Drew?
I think we've only got one, if I'm not mistaken. If I missed any, somebody please copy it and put it back in chat, because I only see one up there.
Well, let's get it.
All right. Is there really any possibility for an AV or EDR that doesn't have kernel access?
I asked that same question, Adam. That was the same question I asked Josh on Monday.
I'm going to preface this with, I am not a Windows developer. Actually, I'm not a developer at all. Like, you don't want to see me write code. I imagine conceptually, my opinion, conceptually, you want the high vantage point that kernel level access would have, right? I can see everything in memory. I can see everything everywhere on this device. I want it, and I think it's personally worth the risk.
I actually grabbed one of our developers this morning to ask him about this, and what he told me is they did test it in pre-production and it worked.
Yeah.
I know, don't come at me, don't freak out, but that's what he told me.
We're talking CrowdStrike's build process. Yeah, I think this has implications for anyone who is making. And I won't call it out specifically, but someone's talking about Elon and Elon's hot takes and whatever, about applications that update via the cloud that are vendor controlled versus user controlled. And I think that's a topic that's worth a discussion.
Yeah.
And it also has implications for us, like here at PDQ, right?
Yes.
We make PDQ Connect.
Yes.
PDQ Connect has an agent, and we update that agent as it happens. So it's anyone who is in that same boat needs to start thinking about these things. How are you pushing these updates out? Because most of the time, your customers are just trusting you to make the right decision and the best decision.
I have a feeling industry-wide we're going to see some changes from cloud vendors and many other vendors, quite frankly, for the better.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I think everyone can agree it was a hot mess. But as technologists, what we can do, we feel, is prepare for the next time it happens, and incident response.
Yeah.
I mean, these things are bound to happen, right? And I think when they do, granted, this was a big one, but we learn from it, right? And hopefully CrowdStrike does too, and they perfect their processes on their back end, because, I was looking at it yesterday, I was looking on the web and you looking at like G2 site and stuff. And, if you're up and to the right on their little like graph of like, hey, it's widely used and people tend to like it. Right. I mean, they're up and to the right. They're just below like Microsoft endpoint, And so it's like, hey, people had a pretty good outlook on this company. I guess they provide a pretty good product and do things pretty well. And so it's like, everybody's going to be bound to have like, that one like, oh, hey, stuff happens, right? Stuff hits the fan. But it's how they proceed from here. It's, do they fix that process to make sure that something like this can't happen again?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I said to Josh initially, because, you always think I have an idea. I said to Josh, why not on these really business critical machines, these high level business critical machines, why not run Linux? And Josh immediately said,
it has the same problem. Same problem. This isn't a Windows problem. Everyone wanted to jump and point fingers and be a Windows hater.
And I wasn't. I was really just saying more from an attack vector, but you're obviously right. It's going to happen again. And
yep.
Why not set up your system with one EDR provider and the other has
Hey, why not?
the management of it,
It depends. Yeah. What's your cost tolerance? What are you protecting? Right. Like now you've doubled your management, and you've probably not doubled your cost, but it's an increased cost. Everything comes at volume discount.
Zoro has a question for Connect.
Yeah, let's get it.
Ooh, yeah, I did not pull that up yet.
All right, I got you. All right, so here's the question. Will the ability to manually approve and delay approval of apps be added to Connect, including for the agent? That is a great question. Right, and we've seen discussion of that internally. I've seen that of like, hey, what are we going to do with our agent? Because we're not blind. We see the world around us.
Yes.
And we know that we also need to learn from these. And so I don't know if it'll come in the way of being a manual approval or some other mechanism to prevent this type of thing from happening.
I'm sure they're looking at it.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's going to be that, but I can tell you that we're learning from this just like CrowdStrike is.
Of course.
Yeah. I don't think we have any other questions. And I think the big takeaway here is, just business continuity. It's important, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
So, cool. Thanks for coming along on the journey with us today in our conversation. For PDQ, I'm Josh.
I'm Tara.
And that is our show, everybody. Thanks for tuning in with us. Make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have a second, head over to our Discord channel and hang out with us. We would sure enjoy it. We will catch you all next time.